We're going to be creating a surface. We're going to use feature lines to create that surface. The feature lines are based on survey points. So we have our X, Y, and Z data that we'll be feeding into it. And so once we're ready and we have some basic feature lines drawn in the drawing, what we want to do is we want to click on the word surface under Prospector. And if you don't see this up, you can hit Tool Space and it'll come back up. This turns Tool Space on and off. So we'll go to Surface, we'll right click, and we'll hit Create Surface. We're going to rename this surface instead of just Surface 1, 2, or 3, or whatever. We're going to call it OG1. And for right now, we'll just leave the rest of these there. OG stands for Original Ground. Sometimes we have multiple original ground surfaces and multiple finished ground surfaces. So we expect to see OG1, OG2, OG3, and FG1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth. So now once we did that, we look at the plus sign here next to surfaces and we see this OG1. But we still haven't created the surface yet. We've only created kind of a folder or a placeholder for where the information will be placed. Once we start adding information to the surface or definitions, we will start to see the reflect the evidence of the surface. So these are all feature lines, all the white lines representing the curb and sidewalk for this intersection. And so what we want to do is we want to use break lines to be able to add information or definitions to this surface. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to click on one of these feature lines and I will right click and go select similar for this example. And you can see that all the feature lines that I have drawn so far are highlighted. At that point, I can right click on break lines and add them. Don't use any other styles or any other types of definitions here with feature lines, only break lines. We'll add those. We have some curves around the corners, and so we're going to make this middle ordinate 0.02. And sometimes that takes a little while to kind of play with that mid-ordinate distance. But what that will do is it will provide a smoother surface around the corner for us. And we'll go through that in just a second here. So when we say OK here, you see evidence of a surface immediately. And so when we click on this, we see the contours, but we still have a lot of work to do here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the surface so it's highlighted, right click, and you'll see surface properties in the pop-up menu. And right now it's set to CPS 1 and 5 FG. No big deal. We were going to select CPS 0.1 and 0.5 OG. And we can even create one for editing. In fact, that's the one I'll use right now because I want you to see the triangulation of the line work. So now we start to see this surface and we see the boundaries of the surface. And the next thing we want to do is we'll do a quick little polyline, just a standard polyline. But before we do, we'll do a little bit of layer management. This surface goes on the tin layer. I want to make sure that that's on the tin layer. And then also we have a tin boundary layer here that we're going to set. And we're just going to draw a two-dimensional polyline, just a regular polyline. And we don't have to worry about the outer edges, but we do have to worry about these inner edges. And we need to get as close as we can kind of get around here, around this curve here, to help alleviate some of this line work here that is extraneous. We'll go through that in just a second, but extraneous line work is when the triangulation network, you can see the line, how this line right here goes past this point. So that anything beyond that, when lines go past points, then that's extraneous. And then just click out here is fine, and then again we'll put a few vertices in here as we come around the curve, And again, this trims away the stuff that is really on the inside curves. You can see me going real wide around here. We're going to see the results of this in just a second. And I'll come out here. Doesn't matter how far I go out there, but it's on the inside of the curves that we really need to worry about, like this. So we'll just put a few vertices here. Just clicking along here. And then we'll go out here and hit CL for close. Now we have this closed polyline around this surface. And we can see the triangulation going on here. Well, now, under the definitions, we can right-click on boundaries and add this boundary. And this boundary, we can call it outer. We can call it anything we want, or don't even name it. It's not important. But make sure this is going to be a destructive break line. I'll show you the difference here in just a bit. Don't use non-destructive, because that does not give you the results that we need here. So when I press OK here and I select that boundary, it completely cleans up the outer edges of this surface, except for where our contours or our boundary line was not close enough. And so where that is, again, this is a line right here. This line right here is one that bypasses or goes past this point. So that is that is extraneous information, and we want to get rid of that. And as we select this point right here, we may notice that the surface now has exclamation points with a warning sign. And so what that means is the surface definition has changed, but the surface is not updated yet. So what we should do is click on the OG1 surface and select Rebuild Automatic. When that happens, the surface gets cleaned up. Anywhere that's outside of this polyline will be excluded from the surface. So if I move this here, those contours disappear. I move it back and the contours are back. So this is the first scenario of trying to kind of clean up the surface. And again, you should do this, you can do that fairly quickly. One thing that we see here is that the contours are not very good right now, because we only have the outer edges of the surface or the roadway, and now we're going to we'll put the center line in. So as we go to feature line, we'll create this feature line, but before we do, I need to make sure that the point group is at true Z. This is going to help me draw this feature line. So when it's at true Z and I create a feature line and I say OK, and I hit the F3 key and make sure it's set on node, it's going to pick up the elevations as I go down this road. So I just go left, select, right click, and like here, select on the node, and then I'm going to hit E for elevation, and it's 201.33. It pulled that elevation attribute from the point, so it's just a left click and a right click, a left click and a right click. And I'm just going to march down the road, and my line work, my feature line work wants to be in the direction of the roadway. In other words, I don't want to go from lip to center to lip and then down to the next station and lip to center to lip. I want to stay in the center of the road for these, and it doesn't have to be straight. You're going to see the results of it here. So I'm going to call that good. These feature lines for OG1 go on 3D1. And again, we should always do our layer management. Then when I select this, and I can just select this one line that I drew, and I can go right to break lines, and I can right click on break lines and add And I can say, okay, this doesn't necessarily need a mid-ordinate because I don't have an arc or a curve in there. So it plays no part in it. But when I say, okay, this surface is going to update automatically and we should start seeing the results, which we do immediately. Now remember, these contours are 1/10 vertical contours. So they look fairly tight. So, and then I would just continue drawing my feature lines using the same technique that I did before. And I'm just going to just select these lines as I march down the road. And again, I want to do that longitudinally, kind of in line with the roadway that I'm modeling here. And I can come up to here. It doesn't have to be exact, but then I want to add that break line in. And again, there's no arc, so I don't need to worry about a mid-ordinate distance. And when I do, I start building this just using 3D line work, or these feature lines, for this project. And so it's just left, right, left, right, left, right, pan down here, left, right, left, right, left, right. We're going to come back and get this in just a few minutes. But this road is not a perfect road. It's in existing conditions. So we're going to have some kind of quarter crowning here where it's kind of normal in the middle of the street, but at the edge of the street it gets steeper. And so I would select this feature line again. I would right click and add that to my surface, and again it updates, and again I have to do my 3D1 layer, and so on and so forth. I also need to put this one on 3D1 also. And in fact, if I'm going to continue drawing this line work, then I should just put this on, set my current layer to 3D1, and then from then on all the layers that are going to be, or all the feature lines that are going to be drawn will automatically come onto this layer. So now let's take another quick look, a little different look without the triangles on this surface. And we're going to select 0.1 and 0.5 original ground, but not for editing. You can still edit it, but now it just doesn't show the triangulation. And so this, as we continue to build this road, this surface, you'll see these changes happen instantaneously as long as you have this rebuild automatic selected. Make sure that that's selected as you go through. If you get into a very big surface and it's taking a long time for each regen, then you may want to turn that off, do multiple edits, and then come back on and update it once. Last thing we want to do is we want to just take a quick look at this cross section. We'll just draw a line straight across the road. I'm going to select that line. It can be a line, a polyline, whatever you want. And we're going to go quick profile. The quick profile allows us to see what this cross section looks like anywhere this line is. So if we move the line down here a little bit farther, this updates automatically. And you can see the sidewalk, the curb and gutter, the parking area, which is steeper, and then the travel way, which is narrower, and so on and so forth, all the way across the road. And wherever I move this line, if I move it through here, I get an updated view of whatever that line is. So this is a very quick way to see if in fact we're getting the results that we expect to get. Now we've done this side. If I go to this side, you'll notice it's more of a standard cross section because I don't have those additional feature lines in there. The last thing we want to do, by the way, when I erase this line here, this view is going to automatically go away, and that's just a temporary view anyway. So here's a point that we've bypassed. We came down the center, and then we came down this edge, and so our surface is not necessarily utilizing this point right now. And what we can do to make sure that the surface utilizes all the survey points is we need to, we'll draw some lines like this, going from an existing point on the center line out to this edge and then back in to here. And now, once I add these two feature lines to the surface will now capture this additional data that was there. So we'll add those break lines, and when we do it, it comes up with a little bit, a little wider scenario, but this is what is represented in the field, however that is. So, and that's what we're kind of trying to do here, is we're trying to get the best picture of what is truly in the field. This is a manhole right here. There's kind of a wowed plateau here on this manhole, and in fact, once again, we can strike a line across there and then do a quick profile using Quick. And we can see that the front almost kind of dips down where that manhole is. So it's given a little bit of a weird scenario there, but that is whatever's in the field is what's important. So we come across those lines, and you can see that the manhole it looks like it's almost settled. Like it comes up and then goes down into the manhole and back up and down there. The reason I know it's a manhole is because it says it's a manhole in this point. So this is kind of how to build a surface and then continually add to that surface as we go through. And if you start going into like this intersection here and start expanding your surface, of course you're going to have to update this outer boundary.